hey, guess what? It's not CGI, it's not Sora, it's real life. Scott and I are together because, of course, Texas brings us all together.
Absolutely. It's not like we have some divider right around here. You see, I can shake my hand on the other side of it. It's not some sort of Hollywood trick.
Oh, wait. Yeah. I need to do this, right? This is the thing. This is what Sam Altman had to do to prove that it wasn't Sora.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Touch your nose and raise your hand.
See,
we can do this.
I only have five, whoops, that's 6 fingers there.
Too many fingers. No, too many fingers.
Anyway, we're coming to you from Austin.
Yeah.
This is the same place. I was told that this is where Lex and Dave Lee do their podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. In this very room.
This very same room.
In the La Quinta Inn. That's where it is. So,
that's where it is.
Magical.
So we have an episode in real life.
Yeah. We're going to talk about Optimus. We're going to talk about Optimus working in the factory. And we're going to make predictions about tomorrow, which will be today as this is released.
And
the
telephone will ring.
Thank you, Sabina. Hey, y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. Yes, we are, in fact, in Austin together. And yes, the phone will ring. Look at the plug. We're going to have, it's wireless. It's a wireless traditional.
Wireless phone.
The phone is going to ring. Somebody important is going to call. So make sure you stick around to the end because somebody important is calling.
The telephone will ring.
It will ring. Okay, cool. So let us talk about, Optimus working in the factory, but I'm going to start with a Shocks post here. Just a piece of this. I already did a video on this, but I wanted to talk about this. Just by seeing, he's talking about the car, but of course this applies to Optimus too. In fact, we even removed the radars and ultrasonics to just really focus on the heart of the problem, which is AI. Today, it's almost paradoxical that Teslas have the least amount of raw sensors, yet have the most autonomous capability compared to any production car. Pulling off such a contrary bet was only possible because of Elon's extreme conviction and deep understanding of the problem. So I wanted to talk about that in relation to the announcement. Elon kind of let it slip in a post, actually, that was a reply to the Shocks, where he said, oh yeah, we've got some working in the factory right now. And then, of course, Tesla posted yesterday. Was it yesterday?
Yeah, I think it was yesterday.
Yeah, anyway, I can't keep track. Anyway, because I'm apparently very basic. And you're very smart.
Schmart, no, it sounds like my name, Scott Walter Schmart.
And I'm basic.
Actually, we were really clever because I was afraid if I get the same brand, we would mix them up.
That was you were smart.
Yeah.
Very
so
smart.
My initials, and you're definitely based.
Right.
So you're
I'm based. So anyway, let's talk first about the contrary bet that Elon made several years ago about going vision only, as opposed to, most of the other humanoid robots and everything have LiDAR. They have some ultrasonic sensors, possibly radar and things. I don't think they have that because they're relatively close by, but they have a lot of different sensors. And of course, Optimus uniquely, or maybe not uniquely, but at least at the time when Optimus came out, was just cameras. And of course, the whole thing is that the AI, the brain, the whatever is the key to this. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it was sort of a gutsy decision to do that, especially pulling the radar out of the cars.
Right.
But again, your instinct would tell you that since we don't have radar ourselves, we're able to get around without it.
Right.
That it makes sense to try to do that because it's forcing you to solve a part of the problem you're kind of keeping away, or literally kicking that can down the road because it's just like too hard to solve it. And this forces you to be really focused on what the problem is because you know it can be solved.
Right.
It's just a question of resources. Now, later on, you might be able to bring it in, ironically, because they've solved it, that rather than the two having a hard time conflicting, now that when you go end to end, there's a good chance it will start to work. Because we do sensor fusion ourselves, but it's a different type of fusion in that we're taking sound as complementing our vision.
Right.
It's not like they're trying to accomplish the same thing, but they kind of help fill in the picture in some of the gaps that we might have.
And I mean, you kind of could think about that, like ultrasonics and LiDAR and radar are all sort of like vision. They're to make out things. Whereas the inertial measurement unit, which is effectively like our inner ears, is a different modality. And very important, obviously, the Tesla needs to know if you're rocking back and forth or accelerating or braking too hard, because that should be a negative. It should be very, very gentle, generally speaking. People want to feel that. So it needs to take that into account, but it's a very different modality because it's not vision at all.
It's more complementary.
Like listening to something as opposed to seeing it. They're complementary.
Yes.
So I guess maybe if we have our third eye chakra, if that was open and we had different ways of seeing, that would be confusing.
Or if you're like bats and we could do echolocation, which I suppose if you really train yourself, you can a little bit. But,
right.
I mean, we mainly use like our auditory to tell us about something we can't see behind us. So like there's a loud bang behind us that tells us, well, you now need to turn and look at what the problem is. So just hearing it doesn't tell you what the problem is, then seeing it is what's really going on. So
yeah, in a way, it's sort of like, because we don't have cameras in the back of our heads, it's nice to be able to have that audio that's like, oh, there's a tiger or a snake coming up behind us.
Which you're not going to see anyways, even if it's straight in your line of vision. If it's blocked, you're not going to see it, but you may likely hear it.
So I think it's important to discuss that, because, Ashok, pretty much, not established because we've seen it before, but he just talked about the primacy of the brains. The brains are very important. We're actually going to get to actuators and stuff in just a bit, because your friend had an interesting take on that. But first, before we do that, let's talk about the factory. So what, are we going to see Optimus in the Gigafactory Texas tomorrow? How cool would that be?
Oh, yeah, it'd be cool. I don't think so.
I don't think
my
so.
feeling is that it's in Fremont.
Yeah.
And it might even be like Cato Road, where they're doing the 4680 line there. And it's probably that they have two Optimi down there working on that particular line, which is part of the factory technically, but I don't think it's really out on the line. And my overall feeling is that they're building up this line, and it's not complete, because when you do automation, you try to go after the important bits first, and some of the other stuff you kind of wait, because if you automate those things too early and you've changed everything else, it's like, well, why do we bother doing that? So the part that we've seen where Optimus has taken the batteries off the line, they were currently doing it manually. So they obviously were paying someone to do that. And now they've been able to do it completely autonomously, is what they're saying. That's my guess. They haven't
well, and we saw those training videos where that guy was feeding the batteries.
We're seeing that. So they're clearly doing it, and what they're doing is they're probably getting the data from that and saying, oh, it's got the reliability now. It seems to be doing it fully autonomously. It's able to handle them coming in different ways and depending on where the boxes are. And I suspect it may be a little bit more than just popping it on there, because if we recall, we said, okay, it's putting it in this bin, but where does the bin go afterwards? It's not on a conveyor. It's probably then being picked up or shuttled off somewhere else. So it's possible it's doing a variety of those operations and coming back, because the speed is not that critical. So it's probably able to keep up with it, and it's doing something that a person was already doing. And so now they've figured out this really easy set of automation that you can put in there. And ideally, that's what you'd like to do, because building a battery line, that's not something you do with a person. I mean, that's not even industrial robot kind of stuff. That we're talking about, like real hard automation that's trying to do that. There may be a couple of simple pick and place mechanisms in there, which may look like a robot, but it's not, because we saw there was something that's pulling up. That's a very simple mechanism. But at some point, it might be what has to happen at the end of the line is very easily done manually. It's just, it's going to be a hassle to go ahead and automate that part. And if that is like, oh, we just bring in a bot or two, so if they're not quite fast enough, we can put them in there. And
well, and I could see one maybe doing the pick and place, and the other one picking up the pallets and moving the pallets.
It could be they're working in concert. That would be interesting if they're not in different areas, but they're kind of complementing each other and working together.
Because one way would just be duplication. You just have two stations, and they just like are working on it. But another one would be one's putting the batteries in, and then the other one picks up the things and moves.
And the thing is we don't exactly know how that line runs, whether it's running continuously, they have to get pulled off, or whether it's sporadic. The problem with sporadic is it means if you hire a person to do it, they're sitting there idle for a long time before they have to do it again. And normally in that situation, that means you want that person to then go do something else. So you have a variety of tasks that they're kind of going around. It's really difficult to automate all those, because you have to have 3 different things of automation, because usually a robot is not deployable. It's something you bolt down, it just goes ahead and does that. So if it's not running nonstop, you're not going to bother to do it. So Optimus is deployable automation. It's also extremely flexible in that you just sort of show it what to do or tell it what to do. We're not quite sure yet, but it's probably a combination of the two.
And if Cern Basher had a suggestion, if they haven't done this yet, they need to do it. They need to call them Adam and Eve. Because it's kind of cool, the idea. So anyway, so I think that, again, it comes down to the brains, because they specifically said they're doing this autonomously. So they're not teleoperating it. I mean, I'm sure that there are people watching them very closely right now, because it's piloting this. But the goal, I guess, at this point would be to go from 80% success rate in whatever this job is to then 85% to 90%, so that eventually they're as good as humans at probably 99+% of whatever kind of simple task that they do.
And the main thing is whether there's error correction. So if it's putting it in there, and let's say it's failing 1 out of 4 times, and then it's kind of correcting it, well, that's not good. We want it to really be able to hit it all the time. But if 1 in 100 it misplaces the battery, but then notices that and corrects it, then that's all right. So at the end of the day, you're still getting it through, but with a slight mishap. That's not very much. The only reason you don't want the mishaps is that's going to slow down your cycle time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That would be, and especially if you had a bunch. If it's 1 in 100, that's probably acceptable.
Now I suspect that they've trained it telerobotically doing these kind of pick and place operations up in the lab. So they get that all down there, then hopefully they've got the model in place that they bring it down there, and they're just saying, go to it.
Right, right. And of course, I think we even saw when they did the demo of Optimus putting the batteries in, assuming, again, it could be doing other tasks as well, but when it did, there were some times when it placed it slightly incorrectly and you could see it adjusting.
That's the little mishap there. Where either wasn't going down there and it did a second try, or as it went in, it then kind of corrected itself.
Yeah, and obviously, because of cycle times, it couldn't happen all the time because it would just be so slow. But again, if it just once in a while misses. So yeah, I don't. The interesting part, of course, would be for that job, what is the human success rate? Like, how often does it?
It's probably the same thing. I mean, the humans are pretty good, but every now and then we pick up something a little wrong, or it slips off our hand, or it just doesn't go quite in right, or we're distracted a little bit. So there are going to be these little bobbles, but these things are designed that if you get kind of close, it's just going to drop in.
Yeah, because you can see that the edges are beveled and stuff.
You don't want to make it like a super challenge. Even for humans, it's like you precisely have to go over. That's going to slow it down. So you design it in such a way that they can do it with fairly good speed, realizing that there's going to be some imperfections, but it's not a big deal. But then again, if you look when you're teaching children to do something like that, they're really bad at, and then eventually they become very, very good to the point that they almost aren't making mistakes either.
Which, I could definitely see these bots being trained on children's toys, because a lot of children's toys are things like that. Put the round cylinder in the round hole, and the kids have to figure out that shape matches, and then how to be dexterous enough to put it in. And it's exactly what these bots. Now, of course, the beauty is once one bot knows how to do it, infinite, all of them know.
It just comes right on over.
Yeah,
yes,
which
exactly.
is great.
Having to train 1,000 bots doing it. Yeah.
So major advantage. Now, I don't know. We haven't seen Optimus in a while, but you think it's probably not operating up to human speed, at least according to the last time we saw it.
Doesn't seem like it. Yeah. Doesn't seem like it.
What do you think, 50% maybe?
Yeah, the walking speed is about 50%.
Yeah.
The manual dexterity, the manipulation, maybe a little bit faster. I'm not sure if it's quite. I mean, the question is what's human speed? Is that you'll have some people that could do that really quick. They can't do it nonstop. The question is what's the actual rate that you want them to go through, and whether it's able to match that.
Right.
And it's probably getting a little bit closer there, because it was slow at first, and we did see that it was getting faster and faster.
Right. Yeah, you want for the old folks in the room, like the Lucy episode where she and was it Ethel? Was that her friend's name?
Yeah.
Where they were doing the chocolates and they were going so fast that they were just like putting them in their mouths and whatever they could do. So obviously a human is limited in their rate and what they can do. And as long as the bot, so let's say the human could do it in bursts and do it really fast, but then they have to take a break every 10 minutes and kind of just like shake it out and stuff. If the bot can go 80% the speed of the human, but never have to take that break, then you've got effectively it's averaging out to about the same speed. So
because you got to remember it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. An
8-hour
day is very long, and for short bursts you can get away with stuff. But if you try doing it for 8 hours, there's no way.
Yeah,
you're going to injure yourself. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to be fatigued, and then you have to show up the next day. And then
and you have to have the psychological wherewithal too, because if it's that torturous, you're not coming back to work. You're going to be like, I don't care how much they're paying me. I'm not doing that.
So the industrial engineers are well aware of that. Ergonomicists, when they set these things up, they realize everything has to be done at a reasonable pace, a reasonable rate that you actually can expect.
And reasonable weights and things like that. When you're lifting, you have to have a lift assist if it's going to be heavier than a certain amount. And again, you're like, what 35, 40 pounds? That's like anybody can lift that. Yeah, you can do that once. You don't want to do that 400 times in a day. That's going to crush you.
A lot of reps over 8 hours. So anyone's been in the gym kind of knows that you get tired out pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. So I think let's without bringing up any names, because I don't I don't know what, we haven't asked his permission, but you said that you have a friend who was thinking about like robot actuators, joints and stuff, and had a thought about, I mean, it's not been that long, but the last couple of months there has been kind of a slowdown in these demos.
He was looking at it pretty closely, and it was kind of wondering, it's like, well, how come we haven't seen anything like the past 2 months?
Right.
So there was definitely a lot of activity you're seeing in January and February, and it's been kind of quiet right now.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, oh, okay, is this just the silence before the storm?
Right.
Or has there been kind of some hiccups along the way?
Right.
And because everyone's sort of wondering, like, well, when are these bots going to start to be more human speed? So we mentioned that really everything we're seeing is about 50% speed.
Yeah.
But last week on the Soft Robotics podcast with Marwa, we interviewed Aklis Chen of of Unitree.
Right.
And Unitree just came out with that Hobbit-sized bot called the H1,
yeah.
which is about
Wait,
4,
I think
4
it's
feet
the
tall.
G1, right?
And then there's the G1, which
oh,
is
the
the
G1's the tall one, the H1's
the
the
tall,
small one. Yeah,
both.
okay, sorry, I can't remember.
And both of them, and even Boston Dynamics, I mean, you were able to see that it's able to walk pretty quickly. And I sort of asked myself, well, wait a minute. It's like, you've got a really fast bot. It's going 7 miles per hour. It's able to do backflips and everything else.
Right.
How come you've been able to solve this and no one else can? Because everyone's kind of wondering, well, the others are slow.
Yeah.
And he was like scratching his head. He's not sure either why they are so slow. He doesn't think they're underactuated.
Okay.
It could be that the decisions to use rotary versus linear could be a little bit of it, but he's confident that they would probably be able to get those speeds. It may be partly control systems and software, but that they've had a lot of experience with their little dog bots that were also able to do backflips, that they sort of understand it. So they understand control theory so well that he thinks that's why they may have been able to lick it a bit faster, but has a feeling that the others will eventually catch up. But right now, it could be that they decided speed's not important.
Right.
And I don't know, is it a mechanical problem that the actuators aren't there, that they don't have enough power coming out of the batteries to be able to do it, or is it more of a software issue? Somehow slowing it down, the software being indecisive. So that maybe the arm can go from here to there really quickly, but because it's deciding you have to pick up something, it's trying to track it and it's going like that. Where is it?
Right. That would be my guess. The interesting thing, of course, is that with Tesla, you've got, we're looking out at a road right now, and clearly a Tesla can make decisions at 70 plus miles an hour, 120
really
kilometers an hour. But they're simple. The output controls are super simple. Angle of steering wheel, accelerator, brake, that's it. So if you think about the amount of output control, balancing on 2 legs, moving your body, potentially picking up a heavy object, changing your center of gravity, dexterity, all of those things may be just too much for the brain to handle very rapidly. So, I think the Tesla, what is it? It's 36 hertz, right? It's going in. I think they said basically that was limited by the camera speed, that the camera couldn't go faster than that. But again, the output controls are so simple. The output controls of a humanoid bot are incredibly complex, and they all interact with each other, which is one of the reasons why it's really been an impossibility to do it until recently. So I put mine in Do Not Disturb. So anyway, that would be my gut as to what is the problem, is that it's more of a brain problem than an actuator problem.
Okay. So, hopefully it is.
Anyway, we'll see. Okay, so now we're going to talk predictions. We are going to predict 2 things. Yes, do you have something else first?
Are you going to predict what sock is on my right foot?
Okay. Am I going to predict it?
What is it?
It's you got Mars on the right foot, Earth on the left foot.
Everyone wants to know. And what do you have?
And I've got the stars. We're going to the stars, baby.
Okay. So we've got
a prediction.
We've got these predictions.
Yes. 2 predictions. Number 1, Tesla moving to Texas. Number 2, Elon getting his compensation package. You go first. I've already told you what I think. So.
Well, I mean, do we need to get some research on this first?
Do you think the phone's going to ring? I think the phone's ringing. Wait. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that was really good timing.
There?
Amazing, Scott. Hello? Elon, hey, it's good to hear you. Yeah, okay, do you have predictions? You want to give us your predictions, okay? Okay, so first of all, what about moving from Delaware to Texas? Is that going to pass? Really? Really? Wow. Okay, well, that's really cool. So just wait for that one. All right, the second one is, this may be a little personal, but do you think your compensation package is going through? Double? Oh, my goodness. Wow. All right, well, that's really amazing. Ask about the interview. Okay. Oh, yeah. Elon, how about that interview you promised me last year at the shareholder meeting? Hello?
Oh, well.
Oh, well.
You win some, you lose some.
I guess so. Darn, I thought I had him. All right, now that you've beat around the bush for too long, so what's your answer?
Well, I'm just going to pretty much go from my research of listening to Alexandra, who is the Tesla Boomer Mama, and she's pretty confident that the pay package will pass, but still, if you can still vote.
Please
just
vote.
To make sure, so it passes by as wide a margin as possible. And then that the move to Texas, a lot of people think it's a much tougher bar to go there because
abstentions are no's.
Oh yeah, abstentions are no's and stuff like that.
That's brutal.
Which basically means that if whoever's holding your shares, that's supposed to be a proxy. If they decide to not vote, they effectively voted no. So it's very tough for that.
There's like
to pass.
3.2 billion shares. I did it. It's like 1.564 billion shares have to be cast yes.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of shares.
That's a lot of shares. So it's going to be tight. She thinks it's going to pass by like razor
really
thin
to go
margin,
to Texas.
Okay. So I mean, I'm on her side. Okay, so whatever she says, that's the smart money's on her.
There we go.
Okay, so smart water,
yes.
smart money.
So I'm going to be basic. I'm going to say I think Elon's compensation package will pass. I don't think the Tesla move to Texas will pass because of that bar. The consequences of now, this is the interesting part here, because even if we all, let's say 70% of voters say we want Elon to get that compensation package, I don't believe, unless the move to Texas comes through as well, the judge could just overrule that as well. She could just say, McCormick could say, like, nah, I don't buy it.
It's good. Yeah, I think it's tough. I think
it would make it much more difficult for her.
So yes. So if it's, but I think the move to Texas does not affect the pay package. That Tesla has said has nothing to do with it. So
no, but what I'm saying is that they could, let's say that she created problems. If they could get moved to Texas, they could re-vote on it and then probably pass it.
Yes, potentially. But right now they want to settle it without that.
Yes.
The move to Texas, it should just happen straightforward, but there could be some potential precedent saying that you can't because what was the company? I forget that. That wanted to move to Las Vegas from Delaware, that wanted to do it. The problem is it was like 50% by one particular owner and the minority shareholders. So wait a minute, we didn't really have any stake. All I had to do was say yes. But in this case, it's very different because the combination of Elon and Kimball is well below that threshold. And so some people are saying that if they get like a 60% vote, then it can definitely be done.
Right.
50%, there may be some people arguing, you really can't do it. So
interesting.
We'll have to see.
Interesting.
But we won't know until it at least passes.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, it is 3:30 as we record this, and so somewhere right around 24 hours from now is when we should find out. And I bought my asbestos suit on Amazon, so I'm going to wear it.
Probably going to be more like 25 to 26, because remember the first hour is everyone going through and telling what their different proposals are, and then we find out.
Yeah, exactly. So so anyway, it won't be. It's usually pretty boring, but I think number one because it's Martin's last stand as the director of investment relations, and number two because we know the big votes are coming. It's probably going to be a little more exciting than I think. The last couple of years have been like yawn fest while they're doing the votes.
Yeah,
they really don't care. But,
yes. And the thing is that was really surprising when we were in person is that the people that have these proposals, they phone in. And they have 3 minutes, and they don't actually rehearse their speech.
No, which is terrible. It's ridiculous.
And then
Martin cuts them off.
He cuts them off, and the first thing is the first 30 seconds like, I'm on. So they're somewhere else, and suddenly realize that they've got to get themselves to get their mute off and everything like that. They have a really bad connection.
Right.
And then they're trying to make this pitch, and the first thing they start out almost like attacking everyone and making everyone in the audience really angry.
Yeah.
And then finally the last 90 seconds to try to get to it, and they get cut off because they get 3 minutes to do it.
Right.
Some of them finally realize the best way to do it is to show up in person.
Yeah.
You show up in person. If it's that important to you, that you put that proposal on there, be there. But if you're going to do it on a speakerphone in a conference room, because you're managing like 30 other proxies around there, it's not important.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I think there's no excuse. If you're going to put together something like that,
you need to be there.
You need to be there. Yeah. And plus the fact, why not come? It'd be pretty, you get a free pass basically. Because you have a proposal on the board. So, so if anybody has a proposal, we can put it together next year and we'll just have to,
we'll just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, we'll deliver
or maybe
it
it gets you in automatically. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. I think it'll get you in automatically. So we'll be happy to present your proposal, as long as it's reasonable. Not moving state of incorporation to the moon. That will might not pass. That'd be pretty good. All right, Scott. Well, cool. Hey, look, it's real life.
It's real.
We're actually touching.
It's real life. Exactly. Yes.
I should put like a big giant bar in the middle of this thing for the whole thing, just so people think it's fake. Anyway, everybody, enjoy the meeting tomorrow. And let us know what you all think. Let us know what your predictions are for all of this, and we'll see you in the next video.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Sorry.
There we go.
Good
See you in the
luck,
stars. See you in the stars, baby.